I deserve the house. I took care of him. Aunt Patricia shrieked, pounding her fist on the conference table hard enough to make the water glasses jump. The money should be mine. I'm the ELDEST son. Uncle Robert bellowed simultaneously, his face the color of an overripe tomato, as he waved what he thought was Grandpa's will. Why were they fighting over an inheritance that had vanished years ago, and when would they realize their greed had made them blind to the truth? The lawyer, Mr. Davidson, adjusted his glasses nervously as my relatives continued their screaming match. Besides Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert, there was Cousin Dennis arguing about the classic car collection, Cousin Marie demanding the jewelry, and Uncle Thomas insisting the investment portfolio was rightfully his. They'd been at it for 2 hours. Please, everyone, if we could just. Mr. Davidson tried again, but Aunt Patricia cut him off. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. I spent every weekend with Dad for the last year. The last year? Uncle Robert laughed bitterly. Where were you for the previous decade? I visited him every month. Visited to ask for money, Cousin Dennis muttered, which started another round of shouting. I sat quietly in the corner, sipping my coffee and watching the show. They hadn't even noticed I was there, the granddaughter who'd supposedly been too busy with college to matter. Too unimportant to include in their schemes and plans. Mr. Davidson finally raised his voice. Please, I need to inform you all of something crucial. The room fell silent. Thank you, he said, pulling out a folder. I'm afraid there's been some confusion. The estate you're all fighting over, it's empty. Empty. Aunt Patricia's voice went up 3 octaves. What do you mean empty? I mean there are no significant assets to distribute. The house has multiple mortgages. The investment accounts show a 0 balance. The cars were sold years ago. There's approximately $3,000 in the checking account, which will barely cover funeral expenses. That's impossible. Uncle Robert snatched the papers. Dad was worth millions. The house alone is worth $800,000. Was worth that much, Mr. Davidson corrected, before the mortgages. This is fraud. Uncle Thomas stood up. Someone stole from him. Elder abuse. I demand an investigation. That's when I stood up. Oh, Grandpa transferred everything to me 5 years ago, I said conversationally, as if commenting on the weather. Every head in the room swiveled toward me in perfect synchronization. What? Aunt Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. Yeah, I continued, pulling out my own folder. While you were all fighting over who deserved what, Grandpa made me co-owner of everything, then sole owner. All perfectly legal. You manipulative little, Uncle Robert started. Careful, I warned. Defamation is still a crime. Mr. Davidson, would you like to explain, or should I? The lawyer cleared his throat. Miss Bennett is correct. Starting 5 years ago, Mr. Bennett began transferring assets to his granddaughter Sophia. The house was put in both their names, then solely in hers. The investment accounts were gradually moved to a trust under her control. The cars were sold with her as the beneficiary. But why? Cousin Marie wailed. Why would he do that? I pulled out a letter. He left this with Mr. Davidson to read if this exact situation occurred. Should I read it, or would you prefer the lawyer to? You read it, Aunt Patricia spat, since you apparently orchestrated all of this. I unfolded Grandpa's letter, written in his distinctive handwriting. To my loving family. If Sophia is reading this, then you're all gathered in Davidson's office fighting over money that isn't there. I know you all so well. Patricia, you're probably claiming you deserve everything because you visited me the last year. What you don't know is that I have security cameras. I watched you go through my drawers looking for valuables every single visit. I saw you pocket my father's watch, the one you claimed went missing. Robert, you're likely arguing that as the eldest son, tradition dictates you inherit. The same tradition you ignored when you tried to have me declared incompetent 3 years ago. Oh yes, I knew about that. The lawyer you consulted was my golf partner. Dennis, you want the cars that you think are in the garage. I sold them after you took my Mustang for a test drive and returned it with a blown engine. You never even apologized. Marie, the jewelry you're after? I gave it to charity after I caught you trying to break into my safe. The combination you were trying was my birthday. How unoriginal. Thomas, my investment genius of a son who lost his own fortune in cryptocurrency schemes. You've been telling people I promised you my portfolio for years. I never did. Here's the truth. 5 years ago, I realized none of you saw me as your father or grandfather. You saw me as a bank account waiting to be emptied. Your visits were reconnaissance missions. Your concern was calculated. Your love was conditional on what you could get. Except Safia. While you were all scheming and fighting, she was there. Not the fake there where you show up and complain about your problems while eyeing my possessions. Actually there. She drove me to doctor's appointments without being asked. She fixed my computer when it broke. She taught me to use video calls so I could see my great-grandchildren. She never once asked for money. When I offered to pay for her college, she refused and got scholarships instead. When I tried to give her money for her car repairs, she insisted on paying me back. When I mentioned adding her to my will, she told me to spend it all on myself and enjoy my remaining years. That's when I knew she was the only one who actually loved me, not my money. So I transferred everything to her, legally and irrevocably. The house where she actually lived with me for 2 years when none of you would take me in after my heart surgery. The investments she helped me manage when my vision got bad. The money she never asked for and tried to refuse. To those of you now thinking of contesting this, don't. Every transfer was done with perfect documentation. I was examined by 3 separate doctors to confirm my mental capacity. Everything was videotaped. Safia tried to talk me out of it multiple times, which is also documented. Patricia, check your bank account. I left you the exact amount you stole from me over the years, $47,832. Consider us even. Robert, you'll find I've paid off your gambling debts one final time, $82,000. It's the last bailout you'll get from me. Dennis, Marie, and Thomas, I've donated $50,000 each in your names to charities that might help you become better people. Dennis, yours went to an automotive education program. Marie to a rehabilitation center for kleptomania. Thomas to a financial literacy foundation. Everything else belongs to Safia, who earned it by being the only real family I had in my final years. If you're angry, ask yourself this. When was the last time you called just to ask how I was, without wanting something? When did you ever invite me to dinner without it being followed by a request for money? When did you treat me like a father instead of an ATM? Safia knows. She has 5 years of memories that none of you bothered to make. Be better to each other than you were to me. Dad/Grandpa Joseph. The silence in the room was deafening. This is fake, Uncle Robert said weakly. You forged this. Mr. Davidson spoke up. I witnessed and write it. We have video of the entire process. Would you like to see it? You turned him against us, Aunt Patricia accused me. You manipulated a sick old man. Did I asked. Was I the one who tried to have him declared incompetent? Did I steal from him? Did I lie to him? All I did was treat him like a grandfather instead of a lottery ticket. How much? Uncle Thomas asked quietly. How much did you get? Does it matter? I responded. Whether it's $1 or $1 million, it's what Grandpa wanted. We'll contest this, Cousin Marie threatened. We'll prove undue influence. Mr. Davidson interjected. Ms. Bennett, would you like to share the other documentation? I pulled out more papers. 3 psychiatric evaluations over the 5-year period. 7 different lawyers who reviewed the transfers. Monthly video recordings of Grandpa explaining his decisions. Bank records showing I never withdrew a penny for personal use while managing his accounts. Credit card statements proving I paid for his groceries and medications with my own money. You can't have done this alone, Uncle Robert insisted. You were just a kid. I was 18 when it started, I corrected. Old enough to be power of attorney. Old enough to see how you all treated him. Old enough to care. What about us? Cousin Dennis asked. We're family too. Are you? I asked. When Grandpa had his heart attack, where were you? When he needed someone to drive him to chemotherapy, who showed up? When he was lonely on Christmas because none of you invited him, who was there? Silence again. I continued, every time. Not because I wanted his money. I actually tried to refuse it multiple times. Because I loved him. This is bullshit, Uncle Thomas stood up. You're nothing special. You just got lucky being the only grandkid around. Lucky? I laughed. Lucky to watch him cry when Patricia stole from him. Lucky to see his face when Robert tried to institutionalize him. Lucky to hold his hand through chemo while you all made excuses. We had lives. Aunt Patricia protested. jobs, families. So did I shot back. I worked full-time while going to school, but I made time. That's the difference. I made him a priority. You made him an option. Mr. Davidson cleared his throat. There is one more matter. Mr. Bennett left video messages for each of you. Would you like to view them? My relatives exchanged glances, then reluctantly nodded. The screen showed Grandpa looking healthier than in his final days. He addressed each of them personally, recounting specific instances of betrayal, disappointment, and hurt. But he also shared good memories before the greed took over. Before they saw him as a resource instead of a person. By the end, Aunt Patricia was crying, real tears this time. I didn't realize, she whispered. I didn't think about how it looked from his side. None of us did, Uncle Robert admitted. We got so caught up in what we thought we deserved. That you forgot to deserve it, I finished. So what happens now? Cousin Marie asked. You get everything and we just leave. The charity donations are real, I said. The debt payments too. As for the rest, I'm turning Grandpa's house into a community center for seniors. The investments are funding nursing scholarships in his name. The money isn't going to sit in my account. It's going to help people like Grandpa who need family when their own fails them. All of it? Uncle Thomas asked, shocked. Most of it. I'm keeping enough for a house down payment. Grandpa insisted, said I needed roots. The rest goes to the Joseph Bennett Foundation. You're giving it away? Aunt Patricia couldn't comprehend it. I'm using it how he wanted. I corrected. To make a difference. To be family to people who need it. That's what he taught me. Family isn't about blood or money. It's about showing up. My relatives left one by one, some angry, some ashamed, all empty-handed in the ways they'd expected. Uncle Robert paused at the door. Sophia, for what it's worth, you deserved it, all of it. We lost our way. Grandpa would forgive you, I said. He always did. Maybe try being the family to each other that you couldn't be to him. After they left, Mr. Davidson handed me one final envelope. He said to give you this when everything was done. Inside was a photo of Grandpa and me at my high school graduation. On the back, in his shaky handwriting, My dear Sophie, they think you got my money. What you really got was my love, and gave yours in return. That's worth more than any inheritance. Use the money wisely, live freely, and remember, the best inheritance I gave you was knowing the difference between relatives and family. You are my family. Love, Grandpa. I sat in that empty conference room, holding the photo, and cried. Not for the money or the house or the drama, but for the man who taught me that love isn't measured in dollar signs or blood relations. It's measured in showing up. And while my relatives had been fighting over an inheritance for hours, calculating their shares of his estate, they'd never noticed the one thing that mattered. I'd already claimed the only inheritance that counted, 5 years of Sundays watching old movies, terrible jokes over dinner, quiet conversations about everything and nothing. The money was just paper, the memories were priceless. And somewhere I knew Grandpa was laughing at the beautiful irony of it all. He'd always said the best revenge was a life well lived. Turns out, it's also a great way to distribute an inheritance.